It's Thanksgiving at Pantry Hill, the home of Darien Rozell, her husband, and their 3 boys. After years of living in cities across the country, Darien and her husband returned to their roots in Saratoga Springs, New York. Over the past 9 years, they've shaped this country home into a warm and inviting place for family, friends, and community to gather. From the cozy living rooms to her son's adventure-themed bedroom, every space reflects Darien's thoughtful approach to creating a home that celebrates family, comfort, and everyday beauty.
I love the serenity of this space right now, but the happiest version of our home is when all of this is out and the kids are doing puzzles on the table, and it's my favorite version of home.
Outside, the kitchen garden bursts with harvest-ready produce ready to be picked for the Thanksgiving table. Nearby, Darien's charming potting shed offers a quiet retreat.
This is the potting shed. I call it Mama's church. Before we built the barn, this is where I would go for like a little bit of quiet time.
Inside the newly built barn designed for family gatherings and pie classes, Darien shows us how she sets the Thanksgiving table.
I love mixing and matching. I think it just feels homey. It feels approachable. It feels like something that, like anybody can do that with a mix and match of patterns, and you don't need a full set of anything to make a really beautiful table.
To watch Darien's full home tour ad-free, including cozy upstairs bedrooms, a laundry room that makes chores a joy, and the barn loft, scan the QR code or click the join button below.
Hi, Homeworthy. Happy Thanksgiving. Welcome to Pantry Hill in Saratoga Springs, New York. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. I'm Allison Kenworthy, the founder of Homeworthy, and we take you inside the world's most beautifully decorated homes and introduce you to the brilliant people who live there.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Liz Lang. Welcome to Grey Gardens.
Click the join button below to access all of our latest episodes ad-free and watch extended cuts of this and other homes, opening the doors to new rooms and exclusive content featuring our beloved hosts.
I can't wait to see, I'm so excited.
And if you're looking to shop items inspired by this and other Homeworthy tastemakers, be sure to use the product links below or scan the QR code on screen to find fabulous furniture, coffee table books, and accessories that can transform your house into a home.
Hi, I'm Darien Rozell. I am a home, lifestyle, and food creator. Welcome to my home in Saratoga Springs. This is Pantry Hill. So 9 years ago, my husband and I we lived in several different cities. We lived in Seattle, we lived in Boston, and we thought that we were going to be settling somewhere outside of Boston. And we came home for a weekend in mid-October. We had actually already put in an offer on a house in Boston. And I was like 8 months pregnant, and my uncle had worked on this house. He was a contractor on this house, and it was a spec house that was being built very beautifully by his friend, but just being built to be sold. And he was like, you guys have to come and check out this house. It's really beautiful. It's going on the market on Monday. And, we were like, yeah, but like we already put in an offer. Like we had kind of like our plan set. And we walked into this house, instantly fell in love. Eric and I had a checklist when we were looking for our first home of all of the things that we wanted. And this had it down like to the countertops. And so we took a huge leap of faith because both of our jobs were, in cities. And this was in 2016 before anyone was working remote. And we said, let's see if we can make this work. It was a very natural fit for us. Our families have been in this area for over 250 years, both of us. Our families were granted land after the Revolutionary War here. So everyone in both of our families have kind of moved away and found their way back here when they're ready to raise families. And so, I remember my grandfather had said, when we first moved away, we moved to Seattle, he said, you can move wherever in the world you can travel. And he said, I can guarantee you that there is no place like Saratoga Springs to raise a family. Sorry, I'm getting a little choked up. He passed away. And he was right. And I'm so grateful that we followed that advice because both of our families are here. My parents are 10 minutes away, and Eric's parents are 10 minutes away, and they're so involved in everything we do here. And you're gonna see that. We're gonna show it all to you. So I'm really excited about it. But we have worked for the past 9 years to take a spec house, make it feel custom. And we've done that with friends and family and our community. And it really is a labor of love. So this is the entryway, and we've spent some time in here giving it the character of an old craftsman home. So we had some really modern rails when we first moved in, and my father-in-law changed those out with wood. We have a collection of just family photographs and paintings from our travels and paintings that we found, kind of making its way up the wall there, sort of as like the focal point when you walk into the room. The first project that we ever did when we moved here was we put in a screen door, because I feel like every country house needs like a good slamming screen door. And this one really does the job. It slams really hard. But this is just, kids are constantly in and out, the neighborhood kids and my kids. And this is just a very happy space all the time. This is our sitting room. This is where my kids spend the majority of their time when they're watching like TV or, we're just lounging as a family. This was the office space of our house, but we found that we weren't really using it as an office space. So during COVID, I was like, you know what? You can't get like furniture anywhere. Like, can I pull this together with what I have and some paint? And that's what we did. We just kind of like pulled pieces from all over the house. And this is just very cozy. The kids lay all over the ottoman. One thing that I don't think I share a ton of, on social media is just like how we've incorporated our kids into our home. All of their artwork is here on the walls. And, this is where when they have something new that they brought home or that they're proud of, we tack it up. Because from our vantage point, from our family, sitting here on the couch, this is what we're seeing all the time. So just kind of one way of making them feel really special. I feel like each room has some kind of like an interest point or a purpose for making the kids feel like really special and included. But also it's really important to me in my design to make it functional enough that the adults can also really enjoy the spaces, so that it doesn't feel like kids are taking over. And I don't want kids to feel like they're around anything too precious. Like everything that we have here is, like things happen. Things get knocked over, things get broken. It's not really the important part of it. But I have taught my kids too also to like honor family heirlooms. And we talk about that a lot, and just, the things that are important to us. And so you're going to see a lot of that throughout the house. This is the living room, and this room is part of what drew us originally to the house. It had all of these built-ins already, and so it's just something that you don't normally see in a spec house, right? It just felt very custom. I've spent some time collecting and curating antique books, but a lot of these actually also came from Eric's grandfather's collection. So there's a bunch of his stuff in there as well. And just like pieces here and there. His great-grandfather has his like lap desk that he traveled with is up there. So just really meaningful pieces. This is a newly acquired addition to our family. I shouldn't call him an addition to the family because he's like the original. This is Eric's great-great-great-grandfather. And his grandmother recently, just like a couple of weeks ago, gifted us this beautiful portrait of him. So he now has a place of honor here at Pantry Hill. So those are just, kind of like the point of all of it is to make it feel cozy and make it feel like it was, have it be collected, have it be bits and pieces from the kids and from us and from our family members, and have that all kind of like cohesively come together. And, and in this space right now, like, you look around and you're like, well, where's all the kids' stuff? All of these under here, this is all toys for the kids. So they have their art supplies in the back and then, it goes all down the line and there are different things in each cabinet. So if you're here on a day where my kids are home, looks very different. I love the serenity of this space right now, but the happiest version of our home is when all of this is out and the kids are doing puzzles on the table and, it's my favorite version of home. This fireplace is funny. It was all painted white when we first moved in. And for several months, I kept telling Eric, I want the center of this fireplace to stand out. I'm going to paint it. And he's a little risk averse. He was like, don't do it. So he went away on a work trip. And I was like, I'm going to paint this mantle while he's gone. And this is the way it stayed. This is Sherwin-Williams cyberspace. I get that question a lot. It is kind of like a navy during the day, but at night it kind of comes off as like a charcoal. And this fireplace during the Thanksgiving through the winter season is on constantly. It pretty much heats the lower portion of our home. The oak leaf garland is from Terrain. I'm also a partner with Terrain. And so they sent us this. It's really beautiful. I'm not usually a huge fan of faux, anything really. But I saw this and I was like, this doesn't even look faux. And I'm pretty sure those acorns are real. So I really love that. But yeah, and then this is kind of occasionally the art back there changes. There is a mount for a TV back there. And when we first moved here, we had a TV there, but we found that that was kind of the center of the conversation in this main living space, which is so very open. And so we're not opposed to having TV, and my kids watch movies and they play video games, but there's a time and a place for that. And so, when you're getting together and you're gathering with family and friends, is not really the time for that. So we moved it to a different part of the house, and I'm pretty happy with that decision. We started basically a blank slate. I would describe it as, it's almost like a modern craftsman. It's on top of this little hill. We're less than 10 minutes from downtown Saratoga, but we kind of feel like we're at the foothills of the Adirondacks. So we're surrounded by a lot of nature. I always thought I would land in an old house. And so I've always been just really inspired by, particularly homes at the turn of the century, right? And so a lot of the craftsman type homes that you see around here, the historic ones, were built during that time period. And we're super fortunate. Eric's family on his grandmother's side has what was considered one of the great Adirondack camps up north at Racket Lake. And so that is a really beautiful example of an early 1900s craftsman style home. And I looked at what was there, and I've looked at houses in town, which are a little bit more traditional. And I kind of tried to marry all of those styles together into our house with the guiding principle being, I want this to be cozy. I want it to feel cozy. And so it's just a place where everybody can just be themselves, put their feet up, relax, and just feel like it's like a vacation almost, even if you're just popping in for tea in the afternoon, which everyone does a lot. That's just my family does that, which is so wonderful. They always have. And so we've created this space where it's come on in, have a cup of tea, sit down, relax and enjoy with us. So that is kind of the basis. And then I just use all of our, family heirlooms and natural materials and the kids' nature collections and their artwork and all of those things to just really add the layers in the space that really makes something, really makes the house feel like a home. This is the kitchen, so it's open concept, but hold on, let me turn off I've got apple butternut squash soup on for today. It smells so good. What we've done with the kitchen is, even though it was very open concept, is we've kind of just tried to cozy it up a little bit. So one of the big projects we did last year, it's probably one of my favorite things we've done in the house, is my father-in-law added this transom window, which just adds such character to the home. And it's not even really something that takes up any space. It just kind of delineated the two spaces, the kitchen and the living area, made it a little bit cozier. The kitchen was very modern when we moved in, as was much of the house. It was all blue glass tile, tons of cabinetry, and everything was stainless steel, very modern. So over the last 9 years, this did not happen all at once. We've just kind of taken bits and pieces and replaced things here and there. One of the first things we did was my father-in-law built this around the existing modern hood. And so this whole front panel clips off, just really cool. Some of the stuff he comes up with, I dream it, he builds it. It's a really fun process for the two of us. So this was kind of like that first, and I really wanted it to feel almost like a hearth. We took down the cabinets. Eric tiled the wall here, so this is his first tiling project ever. He did an awesome job. Very proud of him. He wasn't super pleased when he was doing it, but it was a very messy process. I painted all of the cabinets. They were all this like kind of mushroom color, so it's just kind of just like little bits at a time, and I love how it functions for our family. And then we've got the pantry here was originally just like a very small standard pantry. And so my father-in-law built this out for us. So now it's like a double door. I didn't clean that, so I'm not going to show it to you, but it's cool. It's got like a countertop inside. And then the refrigerator here, we kind of enclosed, and, I've said a lot about like how we've utilized or like we've invited our community to help us create home here with all of their skills. And that's been one of the greatest joys of having this platform, is being able to show the skills of our friends and our family. And so our neighbors made these for us. They had like a CNC machine, and so they cut the custom bees out of it for us. So just little pieces that make it feel like us, make it feel like home. And then this is our dining room. Obviously much of what we do here is centered around family and food and gathering. So this space gets a lot of use. This also is a space that has changed a lot over time. This used to be a half wall where the cabinet is here, or some people call it a pony wall. My father-in-law closed that in for us, put the bookcase on the other side, just to give it more of like that classic kind of, separate space. We've had this table forever, since we lived in Boston. It came from my in-laws furniture store, and just things that I've thrifted. And, the chairs came from a consignment shop, and this cabinet. Eric and I almost got divorced over this cabinet. It came out of an old church. I got it for $200. It's got the original glass in it. But the catch was that the only way to get it out of the church was for it to come up and over the balcony. And it was just Eric and this pastor. And then there were a bunch of guys in hazmat suits who were like cleaning out a different room of the church who offered to help. And Eric like retells the story. He's pretty funny, but he was like, I thought that was the day I was going to die. They were like, just like kind of like holding this cabinet over his head. And we got it home. We put it in his little like Toyota Tacoma, and here it is. And it looks beautiful, and everyone is fine. And we still love each other. This was the original mudroom. And it was very much like a 2016 spec house. It was beautiful. It had like the built-ins, and it had a bench, and but what I was finding was when we sat in our dining room and in our kitchen, we were looking at all of the like stuff that everyone brings into the house. And it just like was always a mess. So I started rethinking, what do we didn't make a ton of changes to the house for like the first 3 years that we lived here. And it was like, let's live here and see like how this functions. And so this space was like, first of all, we love tea. We have afternoon tea every day. We make our morning coffee here. And so that kind of became kind of like a coffee beverage bar. But then we, also needed it as like an extra space to bring in our veggies from the garden. And so we brought our veggies, when we are out in the garden, we can bring our veggies in. They get washed in this big sink here, and they don't get pulled into the kitchen. My father-in-law did all of this for us. He did the custom top and custom shelves, painted this. This was a Facebook Marketplace find. So everything is collected. And this is probably one of our most functional spaces. It's everything. The holidays, it's a drink bar. We fill this with ice and we put all the drinks in it. And, when my pie workshops, this is where we wash the dishes. We hang our herbs in here too. Just wanted to show you that. So this is where we like pull all of our herbs from the garden and hang them on this drying rack. It's like a clothing rack, but for laundry, but I turned it into an herb drying rack. Our whole purpose has been like finding our way home. And then what we did was we created an entire life around, like our whole life became centered on like creating this sense of home here, on the idea of coming home, and the idea of success to us looking like coming home and being near family. And I'm just really happy that we were able to do that. And now we've been able to build a space where all of our families can come together and spend time for the holidays, like Thanksgiving and Christmas. And, because we have such large families and they're all here, we've sort of become this kind of like centerpiece of all of that. And it's so beautiful to see, and we 9 years ago, we had this dream of starting a garden, right? And we had moved from the city where we had basically container plants on our back deck. And we, had loved the idea of it. And so the first year we moved here, we started with 3 really janky raised beds that we took from my parents' backyard and said let's just see if gardening is something we want to do, right? So we dropped them in the space that is now our kitchen garden out here. And we really loved it. And so we kind of quickly realized that we needed a fence and all these things. And then it all just kind of everything that we do here, especially since we had kids, has been built around the garden, and just kind of going back to our roots. My grandmother's family, they were farmers in the area. And so just kind of taking all of that generational wealth of information, the recipes and the gardening tips and all of those things, and pouring that into our space out there. And then I just started sharing that. I was in magazines and I was a digital editor, and and then when we had our second baby, I stopped working for a different company, and I said, why don't I just spend some time throwing some of those skills into what I'm doing here, and start sharing some of that generational wealth and knowledge and the gardening and kind of just the hows and the whys behind everything that's going on here at Pantry Hill. And it has kind of snowballed into what I do now. So we even we invite people now here to come and bake my great-grandmother's pies in the studio barn, which we're sitting in right now. This is just we newly built. We've only been in it about a month. But yeah, I mean, you'll get to see how all of that has kind of evolved over time as we walk through. My favorite thing about my home is I've spent a lot of time, and we all have, making it look beautiful. But at the end of the day, it is the place where you put your feet up. It is the place where it's okay if we make a mess. It's okay if something spills. Come on in, help yourself. And I think that is in everything that we've done, in the design and the functionality of everything. It's all about welcoming people in and making them feel like they can put their feet up too. Okay, let's go upstairs because some of the bedrooms, especially the kids, are really fun. This room is very popular whenever I share it on social media, but also truly was just built for my boys. It's built for their personalities. It kind of just invites adventure. And so all the rooms sort of reflect our lifestyle, right? And so I found these on Facebook Marketplace. Can you even believe it? They're from a company called Genesee River Trading Co., which I didn't know at the time, but somebody didn't want them. And so I got them for a steal. People always ask me, how do you get the boys to not hang from the beds? I told them, this probably isn't going to last much longer. I told them that they were built by magical woodland elves, and if they broke them, they never get other ones. So they're actually very respectful and they love them so much. But this is just I want this space to be relaxing, be comforting. I wanted it to invite imagination. And so, the boys are very active. They're outdoors all the time. So they love fishing and hiking and running through the woods and swimming. And so you see all of that kind of in here. These Adirondack frames were made for us by my dad's best friend. My dad's giant fish is on the wall, which everyone loves. The boys love that. But this really, we don't have a ton of toys up here in this space. That's for the basement, which I won't show you. and the living room, and all of those built-ins. But this cabinet here, I'll give you a little peek at it because I get this question a lot because I do a lot on children's books. And because I have a master's degree in childhood literacy, it's like very meaningful to me. And I have a big collection and they have a big collection. And so this is where we store all of those. So there you go. Everyone's always asking, where do you store all the kids' books? So this is really what you see in here. They have their stuffed animals in their closet, but every season I change out the books that are on their nightstand. So right now that's all Thanksgiving. Those are all books about giving and thanks and harvest and heritage. And so this is just kind of a relaxing space where we love to read together. And obviously they sleep here. So this is the boys' bathroom. This was another space that I wanted to be really fun, but reflect kind of that like the antique craftsman style, right? And so when I went up to the lake house that I was telling everybody about, I was, looking at all of the details, like what did the sinks look like and what did the medicine cabinets look like? And so I sort of repeated that here with a really fun wallpaper. So the wallpaper is just, something that you would see outside. It's the bunnies and the birds and the wheat and something that feels fun for kids, but also mature for adults. And then, I've added armoires and cabinets in so many of the spaces because I feel like that's really reflective of an old house. You see that in old houses, and that's where they would store all of the things. So each space, like I said, has something really fun to it. So this kind of also has like a loose bug theme. So, and the boys love that. So there's this is full of kind of curiosities, we call them. And just like things that they can pull, like they can bring these into the bath and interactive fun things, and their artwork is in here. Anything that they've done that's kind of like bug related. So this is my youngest. He's 3. So the other 2 boys, they are 8 and 6, and this guy is 3. And his room, gosh, I found it really hard to design a room for a baby, just like a nursery. I needed it to be something that felt like it could grow with them, but was also warm. And so I had a hard time at first until I started thinking about all right, what do we see out the windows when you're in this room? And what you see is the big oak tree in the front. So there's a big oak tree in the front yard. So when you're laying in bed, you're looking at the leaves of this oak tree. And then every day after living here for years and years, we've realized the Canada geese fly over that tree every morning at dawn and every evening at dusk. And so they make a home at the pond in the back of our house. And so I think they go to the state park. Haven't figured out exactly where they're going. But so if you're laying here in the morning and you're laying here in the evening, you're seeing the geese fly over this tree. So that's how we landed on this oak leaf wallpaper. And, we have a nod to the Canada goose throughout the room. Which feels like it's great for little kids, but I do really feel like it's something that they can grow with. The same thing with the, older boys' bedroom. We can add things that make it feel a little bit more masculine, a little bit more grown up as they grow. Or maybe they'll want to change it altogether. We'll see. But for now, I know that they really love their spaces. So this piece of furniture here was built by Eric's grandfather. So it's really nice. He built it all by hand, traditionally as they would have in, the colonial times, I guess. Okay, so in keeping with the craftsman style of our home, it was a spec house, like I've said. The front porch was basically just a cement slab. So recently my father-in-law helped us build out a classic mahogany porch, like what you would see in downtown Saratoga or on a craftsman, type house, an older home. And so we spend a ton of time out here. It wraps around, and so there's more rocking chairs on the other side. The rocking chairs came from my great aunt and uncle's front porch on their farmhouse. And the porch swing was the first gift, my first birthday gift that Eric gave me after we moved into the house. The barn concept also started 9 years ago. When we moved to the property, we are on 6 acres. There's a beautiful pond in the back. And there's a lot of space to spread out. We love being here. We love being home. And so it was just how do we, create more of that for ourselves and for our friends and our family. And then, with Pantry Hill launching, and then I started teaching the pie workshops, and I needed a space to really spread out and be creative. And then we had 3 little boys, and our holidays are getting bigger, and my siblings got married and now they have kids, and all my cousins are getting to that age too. And so we just started thinking what if we had a space where we could invite all of these people into that wasn't necessarily our home. And so we got really far into this process of designing the building with family and friends. So, our contractors are one of the partners of the contracting firm we worked with was a childhood friend of ours. He was in our wedding. Eric and I went to high school together. So we've known each other for a very long time. And then our neighbor across the street, Jeremy, was our engineer on the project. And so we started working with them about how do we build a space that is all of these things. Friends introduced us to a company called Tall Pine Timber Frames, small company. There's 3 guys, and Nick and his wife Juliana run, this small company. They're dedicated to maintaining the traditions of timber framing. And so not only do they build timber frames, but he educates. And we met them and we were like, this is amazing. We looped them into the project. The planning of that took another 1.5 years. But before we hired them, we didn't know this when we hired them, they manage a forest about 15 minutes from here. And when we asked them where the forest was, they told us, and we were like, that's the road that my husband, that Eric, grew up on. And so in high school, he and I would walk those woods with his dog. And, so it was just a very meaningful, his dad grew up there. His grandparents' house is there. So it just was a very meaningful space and kind of serendipitous. And so Tall Pine is true forest to frame. They go, they actually cut the wood. Some of the beams in here are hand hewed. And the process is really cool because they invited us to come out to the forest to pull the logs out of the forest. And so the boys got to be part of that process. This was last fall. And they pull the trees out of the forest using draft horses. And so it was just a really neat, we showed up, and the team that was running the draft horses was Eric's childhood neighbors, and they knew his grandparents. And so it just was this really beautiful kind of community effort. And then the building went up in the middle of January in negative 20-degree weather. 3 guys, there's they don't use modern tools. They did have a crane to get some of the bigger beams in, but everything is done with pegs, and all of the pegs that you see throughout the whole building are handmade. Okay, so the barn was designed to be very open concept, but have several different spaces within kind of this main area. So this is the living room space, which already feels so cozy. Obviously I had spent because this process had taken us so long, I had spent several years collecting antiques and all of these things to kind of make it feel like home. And so I had just been hoarding that all away for the day that we could get ourselves in here. We actually moved into the space less than 24 hours before my first pie workshop. So it was an all hands on deck. Everybody helped get things in. My friend Carrie owns a adorable mercantile, Sugarbush Lane, and she kind of came and helped me style and set everything up. So this is kind of the main gathering space. This is where I'm picturing people, with their drinks and sitting around the fire. The fireplace here, the size of the fireplace, and this was obviously the focal point, both inside and outside. Eric and I we took a trip to England several years ago, and we stayed at this adorable kind of bed and breakfast, and they had an indoor-outdoor fireplace. And so we were in the process of planning this barn, and we were thinking how awesome would it be to do something like that? But it would have to be big because the size of the scale of the building was going to be big. So I came home and I went to several different fireplace companies in the area, all who told me that this was not really something that was possible. And that they don't really make them for the Northeast. That's not what I want, and I was pretty adamant. Our engineer had found a company AccuCraft is the name of the company. They're like a family company and they make these. And so I'm going, and I'm seeing on their website that they're installing them in mountain houses and ski lodges. And I'm like, well, if they're doing it there, like then we could do it here. So nobody, would inquire about that for me. So I just called the company direct and I was like, are you guys interested in sending us one of these? And they said yes. And so we put it in and it's absolutely beautiful. Someday I hope to roast a rotisserie chicken in it, I want to cook in it and do all of these really fun things. So, but what's wonderful about it is we've been able to contain the mess to outside. So it's loaded and cleaned and all of the things that need to be done with it from the other side. And then I have an ongoing partnership with Pottery Barn. So they helped us with some of the rugs and the light fixtures that you see. My in-laws own a furniture store, Bare Bones Furniture up in Queensbury, and they did all of the custom upholstery. So we picked out, I went up there and I actually I started with the rug as my inspiration, took the swatch of the rug up there and went through all of the fabrics. I actually had someone on Instagram, I was showing little sneak peeks of my color palette and stuff. And somebody sent me a link for a Ralph Lauren quilt that they were like, I think these are the colors. And so I was like, those are the colors and that's the color palette. And so I kind of then started carrying around the quilt as kind of my guiding light for, the direction we were going here. But the coffee table here is kind of the centerpiece. My kids love their nature collection. And so they'll be bringing in bits and pieces and baubles and things that they found outside. Right now it's very curated, but eventually I'm picturing this being more of a kid kind of space for them to bring in sticks and mushrooms and all sorts of things. So this actually, we had a nature's table inside. And when I put this out here, I was like, this is a perfect spot for their nature table. So we have some family heirlooms in here too. We have an Adirondack map from 1908. We have a legislative manual of New York from 1919, crab shells that they collected at the beach, and a little bit of honeycomb here, some burr comb from our beehives, and Eric is our beekeeper. So yeah, just some really fun stuff. Feathers that the boys have found and a little wasp's nest, and we like to have fun with it, change it out over the seasons, and looking forward to doing that. So what is really cool about the frame of the barn is, if you notice, a lot of the wood is naturally curved. And they do that for two reasons. One, it's very beautiful, but two, that's how they maintain the structural integrity of the trees. So you'll see some of the kind of, I don't know all the terminology, but some of these side beams, these are all book matched. So it's from the same tree. And so it's all the species of wood that was used as well is a full variety, kind of to match the forest. And so we originally were going to do the tongue and groove all the way down the walls. And one of the guys from the timber frame company was like, if you do white walls in here, the frame is just gonna totally pop. And so I think that was probably the best design suggestion we received, because I really love how that turned out. So, and I did want to maintain the wood on the ceiling because I love that warm glow. We have the shed in our kitchen garden that is all pine, and the light in there is just so warm and beautiful. So I kind of wanted to repeat that out here. Thanksgiving is my absolute favorite holiday. I love that it's a celebration of home and family and harvest and all of the things that I love coming together and cooking, without the pressure of the Christmas holiday. I also love Christmas, but there's so much that goes into that, This just really feels like a time to celebrate all of the things that we truly appreciate and are grateful for here. And so our Thanksgiving here, having Pantry Hill and then building the studio barn, it's all about bringing people together. And so we host a very large Thanksgiving. We host about 30 people. And Eric and I don't do all of it ourselves. The beauty of it is that everyone has a hand in it. And so we might make we do the turkey and a few of the sides, but my mom Like I teach pies, but my mom is the one who bakes all the pies for Thanksgiving. Like everything I learned was from her. So she bakes, like 9 pies, and my grandmother does the stuffing and she's here at the stove, like yelling about how I need to be doing the gravy different. And, so it's such a beautiful holiday for us. And I'm so thankful that we get to have it here. We get to host it here. And I get to throw all of my favorite skills at it. I love, decorating and setting the table and thinking about what our guests would like and how to make them more comfortable. And because everybody is in town here, it's kind of a very relaxed, come as you are vibe. So I'm really excited to see how that changes, or how that's added to inviting people out here. We're doing a really fun kids table this year. I love getting the kids involved. They're very involved in the cooking part of it, and we've always had that. And I think that is a really beautiful lesson for children. Being able to pull things from the garden that they grew on their own to, provide sustenance to family and friends. It's just a very rewarding process. And so I don't know what they'll take out of that as they leave here. Maybe they'll be like, I'm gonna order food for the rest of my life. That was too much work. But I don't know, I hope that, they take something from it. So we're excited to get them involved in doing that. Bring you through to the dining area here. This is where we will be hosting our Thanksgiving, although right now it's only set for 10. We're gonna be setting it for 3 times that number. But the table, social media can be so weird, but it's also a really, really cool place to connect with like-minded individuals. So someone who follows on Instagram is a friend, knew that we were looking for a table like this. And so they saw something pop up. I searched for probably 2 years. I wanted a 10-foot pine antique table. And this popped up about a week before this building was finished. And a friend sent it to me. And she was like, I think this is exactly what you're looking for. And so Eric drove out that day and picked it up. But we ski. We're a ski family. And this table came out of a restaurant at the base of Killington Mountain. So it kind of was like an après ski table. So it's really cool. Backstory's cool. Again, with Pottery Barn out here, they helped us deck out our table with our candles and some of the linens and some of the plates. All of the plates that the plates that you see, the vintage plates, they're either antique or vintage. Some of them came from Sugarbush Lane Mercantile. I love mixing and matching. I think it just feels homey. It feels approachable. It feels like something that, anybody can do that with a mix and match of patterns, and you don't need a full set of anything to make a really beautiful table. In fact, I think it's the opposite. I think that when you mix and match, you can come up with a concept that's really unique and really beautiful. So our cornucopias here are filled with things from outside. So we have hydrangeas from my gardens, oak leaves from the property. And then at Thanksgiving, you'll notice outside is all of the leaves have dropped. And so we're kind of turning towards winter here, but it's still fall. And so I add in kind of those bits of winter. So the green of what you're gonna see outside right now is pine. So we kind of mix in the pine with all of just a really beautiful reflection of what we're seeing outside our windows. So this year I am thankful that we will have 4 generations around our Thanksgiving table again. My grandmother will be joining us at the head of the table, and I look at her and I think that is exactly what I hope for myself. All of my family here, just to be able to sit at the head of the table and look down it and think I created this. So. This cabinet here, again, my friend Carrie of Sugarbush Lane helped me create a pop-up shop for my pie workshops this year. So this is all a collection of a mix and match of her stuff and my stuff. My brother and sister-in-law have a lavender farm 10 minutes away, and so they make all of their own organic cleaning products. And so using their lavender. And so this is just really, truly a collaboration of all of our friends and family and things that they make and things that they love. We have my tea and My neighbor Jen helps me make Pantry Hill candles. And so this was really set up, like we don't sell anything online. This is just like what started as the things that we do for ourselves here at home, the honey and the jam and the vanilla extract and the candles. You know, I offer them for sale for people who are attending our workshops. This is like the main entry table, which, oh gosh, I love it so much. It feels so good. And that's what I said when I picked out the stone. I was like, it feels like you could pet it. My father-in-law built the table for us. So I wanted it to feel like kind of those old English bakers tables. And the idea was for it to be an entry table when you came in, but also it needed to host at least 12 people around it to make pies. And it works beautifully. We tested it 5 times and we really loved it. The tabletop is called Danby. It's a Danby marble from the Danby mines in Vermont. I actually didn't know this when I was looking for that, but that mine is one of the largest underground mines in the world, and it's very close to here. And it creates some of the densest marble. So this is really like a really beautiful marble. Somebody told me that this is what Martha Stewart has in her kitchen. Didn't know that either. I just went to the stone place and they were like, told them what I was looking for. But it has held up really beautifully. So if anybody is looking for a marble, like it didn't stain with the grease or any of that. We haven't used it for that long, but I'm so happy with it. And the concept of it is for it to age. I want it to look old. That's why we didn't finish the pine underneath here. I wanted everything to just kind of like be able to age really beautifully, similar to the barn. And then, I've just been also like collecting antique pieces. So we have like cabinets and baker's tables and all of those things. I baked a sample pie for all of us for today to try. It's an apple pie, and that's what I taught this fall was apple pie. So the crust is my great-grandmother's recipe, and then we change out the filling seasonally. Just really fun. The pie workshops are just a great way for people to connect and make friends and come from all over the place. And I started them thinking it was just going to be kind of like a friends and family and people that I know and like, my mom's teacher friends. And because of the power of social media, they really have kind of taken off, and we've had people traveling from all over the country to come and make these pies. It's been so fun. I think my favorite pie is apple, which is what we taught this year. I love a good raspberry pie. I feel like a berry pie is a little bit trickier just because it's like so juicy. But whenever I think of pie, I think about fall. I think about Thanksgiving. And so I think it was like just really wonderful to invite everybody here this fall. I did all my workshops in the fall, particularly like the Northeast, and it was just cozy. I love pumpkin pie. I love like making designs with crust and like all of these things. My husband Eric would say he would prefer the top to be solid. Like he really loves the pie crust. This is like the studio kitchen area. So this out here is designed for me to invite chefs and people and to cook out here myself and to talk to, invite basically like my social media community into this space. So there was a lot of thought that went into it in that way, but also as an entertaining space for us. We just hosted a soup party where all 10 families brought a different soup and we kind of like lined them all up, which was so fun, and it was super functional in here for that. But this is a ongoing, like so much of the barn. Like I always say, we're probably a year away from like my full vision of what the barn is going to look like. This is a process out here. We'll be adding to this over time. I've got big plans for out here, but for now it's been functioning really beautifully for exactly what we need it to do. Come on into the kitchen garden at Pantry Hill. This space is the catalyst for everything we built our lives around out here. So we started this process 9 years ago, and every year we add something different. We kind of add another element to it. The raised beds are made out of rough cut hemlock, and these are like giant beams. Eric and his dad put these in. We used wood chips. These are playground wood chips, which means they've been tossed to get rid of the bark and all the sharp edges. We replace those, we top them off once every 3 years. We use local compost and all of our garden beds and topsoil. So this out here is an ongoing project. I call this a working garden because we don't just plant seeds in the spring and leave it. we are constantly turning over what is out here. And so an example of that is these are actually ready to be pulled. This is our like a root vegetable bed. So it has carrots and beets, and it had cabbage. The cabbage definitely got eaten. But this is kind of what we'll be pulling from for Thanksgiving out here. And so this was garlic that we pulled in July, and then we replaced it with root vegetables in July to be harvested here for Thanksgiving. We'll also be harvesting our potatoes, which are all underground over here. So we have a really great harvest coming up to serve to friends and family, and then that's kind of the end of our season out here. And we just put it to bed, and I've learned to really enjoy, the garden has really taught me to savor each of the seasons, because I've learned to really enjoy kind of the quiet of, you know, putting the garden to bed for the winter, dreaming about what it's going to be for next year. But this is just like a constant ongoing family project out here. We love being out here with our kids, and Eric does a lot of the pickling. So he does like pickled green beans and cucumbers. I do more of the fruit preservation. So I love to make jams. Right now we're supplementing with stuff that we get from local farms, with produce from local farms. But my goal for this space and for us here at Pantry Hill is to be able to make all of those things here without having to go anywhere else. So we put in some peach trees. The back half back here, we have an orchard. There's 2 pear trees back there. Raspberries, which came from Eric's grandmother's farm. Yeah, so we have a strawberry patch. This is the potting shed. I call it Mama's church. Before we built the barn, this is where I would go for like a little bit of quiet time. This is just a kind of a space for puttering, and you know, we keep all of our pots and everything in here. This is where I have all of our garlic drying up here. This will be pulled in before it freezes. So we have a lot of work to do in the next few weeks, but we're going to celebrate Thanksgiving and the harvest first, and then finish everything up out here. So I have like all my botanicals back here. That was from a calendar. Like I just pulled apart a calendar and thought they would look pretty out here. The potting shed I drew on a napkin, and my father-in-law was like, yeah, we can build that. And so he and my husband built it. The doors and the windows on the back side over here all came from my uncle's 1860s farmhouse in town. So just down the road. We pulled all of that out of his barn. Home to me is family. I think that everything as far as like a physical home is all about creating a space for us to connect and relax and feel safe and feel like we can be ourselves, and creating space for my kids to do that and my kids to explore and be creative and be curious. And so I hope that that is what everyone takes away from being here.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.